Daddy, please. Please help me talk to mommy. I've looked forward to this birthday party for weeks. I even helped plan the party and I promise I'll be going with Kayode. Kayode is my cousin who is in the same school as me, and even though I knew I was lying, I had to say anything to get my dad's permission to go to Ade's party. My friends had been talking about it non-stop and I couldn't resist the temptation to go. Even though my mom had warned me already, she warned me against it because she knew how dangerous and unpredictable parties like these were. But as the only child, I finally got my dad to reluctantly allow me to go. As expected, the party was wild and full of excitement. We danced, drank, laughed, and enjoyed ourselves until the early hours of the morning. With no means of going back home that early, I joined Sam in his car, not knowing that Sam was really tipsy because of all the alcohol he drank at the party. We all left feeling exhilarated, singing at the top of our voices as we drove home. But that feeling didn't last for long, as Sam started accelerating so fast and lost control of the car. We entered into a pothole on the road with that speed and the car almost flipped over. But luckily, nothing happened. Frank, one of Sam's friends in the car, now had to drive and we got to our hostel safely. A few hours later, I woke up to discover that I was in the hospital with my dad, mom, my friend Stella and Kayode standing by my bedside. I later learned that I experienced an excruciating pain in my stomach as a result of food poisoning from the party. I started vomiting blood and eventually fainted. Thanks to my roommate, she was there to rush me to the school hospital and then alerted my parents. I could see in my dad's face that he was upset that I lied to him about going with Kayode. But now, he wanted me to get well first before bashing me. Due to the severe blood loss, the doctor said I needed blood transfusion urgently. And that was where my nightmare began. My dad and mom were obviously the first to volunteer, so their blood had to be tested to see if I could receive blood from them. All went well and the transfusion took place. However, the doctor noticed slight discrepancies in the tests that was carried out on my parents, and he secretly advised my dad to run a DNA test. My dad was reluctant about it because he loved my mom so much and couldn't imagine her doing such a thing to him. But out of curiosity, he gave in. The test was conducted and he found out that I was not his biological daughter. My dad, he lost it. Heartbreak was nothing compared to the hurt my dad felt. He had read and heard stories about paternity fraud, but he just couldn't believe that the only woman who had ever loved him so much would do such a thing to him. But the thought of losing his only child broke him even more, as he couldn't imagine life without his family. Not knowing where to start, my dad started sinking into depression. He couldn't bear the pain. He sought consolation in bottles of alcohol, but it did him no good. He finally picked up his stuff, packed his things, and left the house for a cheap motel. My mom, on the other hand, wasn't left out of the pain as her in-laws began raining insults on her, calling her all sorts of vile names. But she maintained her stand. She said she was innocent. And I was indeed Fisayo's daughter. For me, I wanted nothing to do with my mom anymore. How could she? How could this woman look at my dad and I and lie to us in the face for the past 20 years? My dad has always been our rock, our support. We had this bond that ran so deep, and I couldn't believe that it was all gone. I packed my stuff. I also left the house. despite the pleading of my mom. My dad didn't know what to do. He was emotionally traumatized. He had lost everything that mattered to him, but then he decided to investigate. He wanted to find out who my biological father was, even if it wasn't him. My mom was of any help as she maintained the fact that she didn't do anything wrong and I was indeed my father's daughter. But without any evidence to back her claim, she explained tire. After weeks of research, my dad discovered he has a rare genetic condition called Chimerism. It's a condition where a person absorbs the DNA of a twin that died in the womb, making him have two sets of DNA, which could result in a mismatch in DNA testing. Hence the DNA result they got. So, my mom wasn't lying after all. I am indeed my father's daughter. This news brought back light and life to my dad. He couldn't contain his joy. He was relieved to have his family back and couldn't wait to give the news to my mom and also beg her for forgiveness. He quickly got out his phone to call her as he hasn't contacted her since the result came out. All her attempts to reach him were void because he was broken beyond repair. My mom wasn't picking up either, so he called me to meet up with him so we could go over to my mom's place together. He picked me up and we dashed to the house, but we got into an empty house. My mom was gone. She was gone. My dad contacted the police to begin an immediate search for her, but nothing was forthcoming. We also left for the village to see if she had moved back to her parents' place. Still, no one knew her whereabouts. I went back to school from the village and my dad went back to the motel where he was staying, as there was no point going back to an empty house. Some days later, I went back home to pick up some of my things for school. As I opened my wardrobe, I found a book that my mom gifted me on my last birthday. I couldn't control the tears that came down my eyes because I was really worried about her and I needed to see her. I needed to see my mom and apologize to her for all the hurtful things I said to her the last time we spoke. I headed to the bathroom to clean up before leaving. But there in the bathtub, my mom was lying lifeless. She had taken her own life by drinking poison, leaving a note at the head of the tube that said, "I am innocent, Fisayo. Please believe me. I love you so much and would never do something that evil to you. I can't stand the shame and disgrace anymore. I'm sorry, and I hope the universe declares my innocence someday. I love you and Kemi so much. Take care of her for me. Love, Rash." What did I just read? I felt a sharp pain in my chest and I instantly became physically and emotionally numb. The news got to my dad, who broke down after reading the note. Look what his anger and pain has cost his family. My mom's death was devastating. It left behind a trail of pain and sorrow, as my dad had to live with the guilt and the grief of losing his wife and the mother of his child. But he was grateful that he still had me. We had to learn the hard way that family is more than just blood. Family is about love, trust, and loyalty.